Alright, so I don't know how this video is going to turn out. I did one for another channel that I haven't uploaded yet after I immediately heard the news, but here I wanted to wait a little bit and maybe collect my thoughts and less of a possibility of getting choked up, I hope. But yeah, we know the news. John Michael Osborne died yesterday, and not that I want to be overly negative, but you know it's coming. Because it comes for all of us, but there's certain ones, even if they're a celebrity and you don't know them, that this type of news is going to hit you hard, and this is one of those for me. Because, I mean, in 2 weeks, I'm 37. I've been listening to Ozzy since I was 14. And that's the story for a lot of people. Listening for decades and decades and decades. Yeah, I'm on the younger end of the spectrum, and in a pre-YouTube environment, I scrounged for every bit of information, every single album I could get my hands on, and not living near a major record chain, not doing internet shopping at the time because I didn't have a credit card, it wasn't easy, but I managed to get a few pieces back then and then slowly build things up over time, largely using the internet a little bit later to get certain pieces because I had no other choice. But my journey started with Black Sabbath, hearing a song that I would later know to be Iron Man while driving down the highway, and I heard that dun 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 dun, and you know the rest. And I asked my dad, "What's that?" He says, "Black Sabbath," which of course at the time meant nothing for me. And at that time, I was listening to heavier stuff than I had been. I was off the Britney Spears and the Christina Aguilera, thank God. But I was listening to Disturbed, Godsmack, System of a Down, Linkin Park, POD, Korn, stuff like that. Half of which I would shortly give to my younger sisters. So you go to the Columbia House inserts. They don't have a lot of heavy metal. They don't have a lot of hard rock. But Black Sabbath. Okay. I need to try and find it. Came up with this. And this is the exact copy. Sanctuary release of Black Sabbath, Past Lives. And there's kind of, I mean, it was re-released later on vinyl, which I have a copy of. either behind me or down on the floor somewhere, because I've been pulling Sabbath stuff off of the shelves the last month or so, listening to stuff. But I don't know if I can say the music was life-changing when I played this, but I had a realization that I liked this music and I needed to know more about it. Particularly this version of Megalomania on disc 2 blew my mind. With Ozzy's wailing, I could not believe what I was hearing. I don't know if I was listening on my PlayStation 2 at the time or I was listening on a little stereo, but I stared in disbelief. I was dumbfounded with what I was hearing coming out of the speakers, because it was insane. Not just for the playing of Bill Ward, Geezer and Tony, but Ozzy's vocals on that track in particular were just unreal. And time would go on. Shortly after, my first Ozzy pickup wasn't a CD, wasn't a vinyl. Wouldn't be into vinyl collecting properly until a few years later. But got the DVD version, Live and Loud, because it's all I could find. I was scrounging for anything. I was able to come across this. I don't remember anymore. I think it was a random music store, probably in some strip mall or like outlet store type deal. And for those that watched the Back to the Beginning, they used some footage in Ozzy's solo intro of these clips. I can't really call it a concert since it's cut up of a bunch of different, I think there's like 2 or 3 different concerts, so video's a mess. But the highlights on here are the Black Sabbath stuff, because this was supposed to be, for those that remember, his retirement. And so they bring out the full Sabbath lineup for the Costa Mesa shows, and what do you know, they actually played Black Sabbath at what was going to be the final show. That was a bad joke. As time went on, after that, I stumbled across this at a Kmart. This is the 2002 reissue Ozman Cometh. Unfortunately, this has the Robert Trujillo and Mike Bordin. Obviously not insulting either one of those players, but this is that version of the Blizzard and Diary songs. altered track listing, and they dropped the second disc. And this basically stayed in the player for a while. And the highlights on that, I would say, are again the Black Sabbath stuff. There's some early demos that are wild. And then when I ended up with getting a copy of the Essential Ozzy Osbourne, which went from, at the time, since that was originally released in 2003, that covered Blizzard to Down to Earth, that basically never left my stereo, whether it be portable or the home unit, that for years. And 2005, go to my first Ozfest, would end up going to 4. In total, saw Ozzy / Sabbath probably a total of about 7 or 8 times. But that concert in particular in 2005, you had Iron Maiden, and I was at the show August the 20th, 2005 in Devore, California, but it's San Bernardino, 2 hours outside of LA. That was a show where Iron Maiden's set was stopped repeatedly, with the egg throwing by the band Bury Your Dead, and not even sure how long that band survived after that. That kind of, and of course that was orchestrated by Sharon, and that was the Bruce Dickinson's A Prick and all that on stage and everything. And that night had a profound impact because I got to see my favorite band, Black Sabbath. Saw Iron Maiden for the first time. And essentially had a Girls Gone Wild experience right behind me the entire day. I was on the lawn, and since I wanted to see Sabbath, I wanted to be as close as I could, so I basically just parked myself the full day. I was not going to miss that performance. And as it turns out, up until back to the beginning of the original Sabs, that was the last tour. And that show was amazing, not only because saw Slipknot for the first time, and this is, touring behind Volume 4, so you've got the original band, again, putting on an incredible performance, but I'm not old enough to have seen Zeppelin, the Beatles, the Stones, Pink Floyd, didn't get to see Pantera, and scores of others. Wouldn't get a chance to see the Doors. But I have gotten to see quite a few what would be bucket list bands, and that lineup for Sabbath was one of them, and that was my first metal show. So I'm fortunate to be able to say that. And his music, Sabbath's music's been with me ever since. I got overly obsessive in high school. I wore an Aussie zip-up sweatshirt practically every day in the wintertime. That was kind of my unofficial nickname even. I did school projects centered around him. I was a little bit crazy. I annoyed the fuck out of just about everybody around me. And that music's been with me ever since then, and will continue to be. Since I grew up a singer, I'm not really a musician necessarily, but so it didn't have an effect in becoming into a musician or anything like that. But the effect that his music had, both with Black Sabbath and with the solo stuff, put me at the origin of a musical journey that I'm still on, and that transitioned, you know, into all of this behind me and everything else, and I'm still on that. So he's, and his music and the players around him are the principal people responsible for this, and I'm sure that's the case for a lot of us in the VC, especially on the heavy metal side. To wrap this up, though, there's one other piece to show, one that I've never shown before, and I don't really know why. I just never did. There's a couple pieces like that, but this one in particular, not really able to verify the signature. But this is an Ozzy Osbourne signed microphone. I have a known good signature of his, and the comparison's similar, but of course one's a record and this is a microphone. The only reason why I'm showing it is for this video. I held off, I guess, because not having a prominence on it and it being an unusual piece. But this is an incredibly unusual piece. I've never seen a microphone with his signature on it. That's the only one that I know. And, you know, yeah, we knew this day was coming. Yeah, it's sad, but Lemmy saying, you know, I don't want to live forever. And the live version of the Fall Out Boy, but apparently I am. And that's true in his case. I'm still listening to Motorhead. I'm still listening to Dio. Their bodies may be gone. Their impact is not. And they're still with us every time we drop the needle, every time we press play. They're still there, and their music still impacts us. And I'm going to hang on to the memories and the music until I am met with the end. So, thanks for listening. Since I don't do scripts, a lot of things are random and disjointed and not making a lot of sense, but this one was I just, there was no way that I was going to be able to get any coherent thought on anything, because this hit like a sledgehammer. Yeah, damn. So thank you for watching, and I'll see everybody when I see you.